Hello and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that is also known as Usul, or Quadib. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to talk to you all about my top 5 games from Columbia Games. Alright, going to jump right into it. My top 5 games from Columbia Games. Number 5 is Combat Infantry. Combat Infantry actually just came out here a few months ago. This is a World War II squad-level block war game. And Columbia Games, of course, specializes in block war games. Spoiler alert, this won't be the last one. But there are... Combat Infantry, being in World War II, it's special. I kind of like that World War II squad-level stuff that goes on here. Now, this game... I was a little leery because it doesn't have things like opportunity fire and some other little things like that you'd expect from a squad-level tactical war game, and yet the game works quite well. You have kind of headquarters units that can kind of spread activations among the units they have within their area. And then, of course, you don't just have the rifleman squads or what have you. You also have battalion units that you can kind of recruit, usually from a blind draw, into your pool for units in the game. It's a brutal game. It's a punishing game. It's a good, solid tactical war game that's pretty quick moving and just a lot of fun. The scenarios are pretty good. So that is my number 5. That is Combat Infantry from Columbia Games. My number 4 game from Columbia Games is Victory in Europe. Victory in Europe is, again, another block war game. This one, we just saw the kind of smaller tactical version. This is the grand strategic World War II game. This is a map of Europe, and it's interesting because unlike virtually every other board game out there with a square rectangular map, this has kind of an egg-shaped map. It's kind of a paper map that's kind of oval-shaped, and so that right there makes it quite unique. But it's a good-looking map, and what's interesting here is, like I say, it's larger. It's a card-driven game. You're playing cards for the different years of the war, 1939, 1940, and so you're playing cards to give you certain events. There's a diplomatic aspect here where you're trying to recruit other countries into either the Axis or the Allies, depending on who you're playing. And it's a fairly quick, interesting game. Of course, you got factories that are building units. You're rotating the blocks, of course, to give you more power in each individual units. But it's just a solid, strategic-level World War II game. Very interesting, very fun, very good, well done, grand strategic game. If you like Axis and Allies, this is a game that's a little bit more complex, but it still gives you that same kind of grand strategic feel of commanding your nations during World War II. So that is Victory in Europe, my number 4 game from Columbia Games. My number 3 game is not a block war game. It's not a war game. This is a game that's a little kind of unusual from Columbia Games, but this is The Last Spike. The Last Spike is a great train game. Now, I don't believe Columbia did this game originally. They might have, but I know it was out there before, but they did a Kickstarter a few years ago, and they put out this edition here. I'll be blunt, component quality is okay. It's not great, but it's not horrible. It's just not the best. But having said that, the game is always the thing, and the game here is very, very fun. It's a train game, like I say. You've got kind of like this diamond train track thing that kind of is, from, I think, St. Louis to California. And you're completing routes, but you're buying up kind of real estate at the ends of the route, so that when a route's completed, you can cash in, you make money that way. You use the money, of course, to buy into more speculation, to buy more routes, and you're doing kind of blind draws for the tracks themselves, but as you're completing the tracks, you're helping yourself, but you may be inadvertently helping other people as well. This is a great train game. If you like just the idea of train games, if you like Ticket to Ride, it's like that. It gives you that same kind of feel, but maybe it's even a little bit more cutthroat. Ticket to Ride is pretty cutthroat too, but there's some cutthroat stuff here as well. I really like The Last Spike, and that is my number 3 from Columbia Games. My number 2 games from Columbia Games is, I believe, was the first game I ever played from Columbia Games, and this would have been maybe 2012 or 13, thereabouts. I was actually writing my reviews for the Deseret News, and that is when I first learned about and played Julius Caesar, my number 2. Julius Caesar is a fantastic block war game. It's got a great combat system in that, you've got each of your units has like, A1, A2, A3, B2, B1, B2, B3. And so you're kind of looking to see in the sequence of battle who activates. And then if you activate and you hit the other person, they immediately rotate down. They're not going to be able to come back at you the way you came at them. So it's not simultaneous combat here. And it's brutal, it's cutthroat, but it's pretty cool because you got the factions, you got Caesar, you got Pompey, you're fighting the civil war in Rome during the Roman Civil War, and of course Cleopatra is fickle, she can kind of support either side, so it's really a lot of fun. It's a good historical war game. Really was probably my favorite Columbia Games game until you see my number one, but I really enjoy Julius Caesar, and it's a great place to start. If you haven't played a block war game, you're looking at a place to jump in at it, this is a great one to start with. Julius Caesar is fantastic. So that's Julius Caesar, my number 2 game from Columbia Games. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my number 1 game from Columbia Games. This is a game that came out a few years ago. I played it, I fell in love with it because you got both a strategic level game and a tactical level game. This is a game that for the last few years has been in my top 10 list, I believe. So it's a really great game. This, of course, is Napoleon, the Waterloo Campaign, 1815. 4th edition. It is so much fun. The map itself, the game board is a map. You don't have spaces per se. Essentially, you're moving blocks along roads to towns. Just, I mean, it looks a little more realistic, I guess is the word I'd say. I don't know that that's the case, but it looks like you're using a map instead of actually using a game board. That's really cool. But then when you actually have battle, you move all your units from the map to the kind of tactical board, which of course has the right, center, and left, and you're trying to break through on one of those flanks or in the center. And as you're doing that, of course, you're really influencing how the larger strategic game is going to be played. Napoleon, of course, is trying to break through, capture major cities to hold on the strategic board, while the Allies, the British and the Prussians, are of course trying to keep him from doing that. Now, I've only played this as a 2-player game, where one person plays the French, the other player plays the Prussians and the British. It'd be fun because you can't play it 3-player with the Prussians and the British each playing separately. And I've heard if you have 2 sets, you can do the blind version, where essentially you don't know where the other guy is. That sounds like a hoot to me. Maybe someday I'll end up playing that version, we'll see. But I really like this game. Again, I like it because it's strategic and it's tactical, and it does it very, very well. I love learning about the Napoleonic Wars, so there's a great history element here. Thematically, it's great, and mechanically, it is really one of the most fun war games I've ever played. So again, this is Napoleon, the Waterloo Campaign, 1815, 4th edition, from Columbia Games, my number 1. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamers, ladies and gentlemen, and always remember, Shai Halud. Please somebody help me.